So let's talk about the Destination Thailand visa. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kat. I've been living in Chiang Mai since 2019, and I use this channel to share tips and recommendations for those who are also looking to live in Chiang Mai long term. So I was finally approved for the DTV or Destination Thailand visa, and I wanted to use this video to share my experience with it in hopes that it would help you if this is something that you're interested in applying for as well. So I applied at the Los Angeles consulate, and the requirements are different based on which consulate or embassy you're applying to. So I know some people who applied in Taiwan and Vietnam, and their process was a little bit different, and the actual documents that they required were also different. So for the Los Angeles consulate, they told me that it would be 15 business days, but it actually took 6 weeks. So I came home for the holidays thinking I was just going to spend Christmas and New Year's here and then go back to Chiang Mai, hopefully, if I was approved. So because my application was delayed, I ended up having to change my flight, but here it is. So I have a list here actually of the documents that I used to apply, and it's actually 42 pages of information. I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'm just going to go through what I submitted in my application. So under the DTV, there's many categories that you can apply for. I applied for the digital nomad, or I think it's called workcation, for remote workers. And so my application process is going to be based on that. If you're applying for a different category, you're going to want to go to the Thai embassy or consulate's website and see what the specific requirements are for that. Okay, so again, 42 pages. Cover letter, I have a remote work contract and then remote work policy, basically explaining that my client is allowing me to work remotely, and this had to be signed by myself and my client. Resume, my LinkedIn profile, just to show proof that what I do. I wrote a self-employment declaration letter, also explaining what I do. This was recommended actually to me in a Facebook group. So it wasn't on the initial requirement list, but I just added it anyways. I also added information on my client's company. So this isn't my company. I work for a client. And so I had to submit her tax registration business information from the IRS, her EIN number, so her employee identification number from her company. I had to show invoice and payment transactions from Stripe, which is the payment processor I use for my client. It also required me to submit a rental lease agreement for my condo in Thailand. They asked for my Thailand flight details back into Thailand. So I submitted everything on December 13th. So literally one day after I arrived in the States for the holidays. And then on December 16th, I think it was that following Monday, they actually asked me for my federal and state tax returns. So I submitted that on Monday, December 16th. And then from there, I didn't hear anything. And so every week I was checking my email. I'm like, okay, I haven't heard anything. I'm checking my status in the e-visa application website, nothing. So it was the crickets for weeks. And then I ended up changing my flight. I was actually supposed to be back in Chiang Mai on January 12th. And because I didn't hear anything, I was like, okay, I'll just change it for another 2 weeks. And hopefully by then I'll hear something. And then miraculously, I got an email that said it was approved. And so the process was very tedious. Like I said, I submitted 42 pages just showing proof that I'm a remote worker. This is what I do. And I didn't want them to ask for secondary information. So that's why I tried to provide as much as I could. But even with what I submitted, they still asked for tax returns. Also asked me to send another contract showing my work with the client. And I don't know why, because I submitted so much information. I even sent them, I don't think I included on here, but like an organizational chart showing like my role in the company. And so, yeah, they asked for another service contract. And so I just changed the language a little bit with my client. And I said, okay, just put like contractor work agreement. And I think that's what I ended up submitting. But yeah, the process was very tedious and it was just really slow. It was also the holidays, and there was a lot going on in California. There was the LA fires that were happening. And so I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it was very tedious. And like I said, I spent hours like prepping all this stuff. And then in addition to that, they wanted you to submit the bank statement showing the financial requirement. If you're not familiar, they require 500,000 baht in a bank account. And from what I was told from the Los Angeles consulate was that it couldn't be in an investment account. It had to be like liquid. So that for whatever reason, if you needed to pull it out, you could do it right away. I had looked up the conversion rate of 500,000 baht, and I think at the time it was like 15,000. And then when I emailed them again, they said, oh, actually, you need to submit 17,000 as proof of the financial. So there's not exactly an income requirement saying like you have to have this amount each month or a salary requirement. They just want to see that you have that 500,000 baht in a bank account and is liquid. And so, yeah, they require the financial statement. And I heard from some people in the DTV Facebook group that some were asking for 6 months of statements and some were asking for less. But the Los Angeles consulate only asks for 1 month. And so that's what I submitted to them. I ended up actually going to my bank, asking them to fill out a balance report statement, I think that's what it's called, and had them sign it. So it was a wet signature with the date. I've heard from some people that they just printed out an account summary from their login, their banking login, and that was fine. But I wasn't sure, so I wanted to make sure I provided extra in case. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience. It was really slow, and it was a little weird that some of the things that they asked for were not on the original application, but nonetheless, I'm really happy and really thankful that I don't have to do another visa application for 5 years. But if you're not familiar with what the DTV is, it's a 5-year multiple entry visa, which means you can enter and leave Thailand at any time or as many times as you want. With other visas, anytime you leave the country, you have to have a re-entry permit in order to come back. But with this one, you can come and go as much as you want. The entry is for 180 days. So from what I know, you can extend it one time in the country, and then after the 360 days is up, so you get that full year, you have to leave the country and come back. So whether you do a border run or just spend a weekend in another country and come back. So I'll update when that time comes. I don't have experience with the extensions yet, but yeah, I feel really lucky and really thankful that this worked out for me. I know I've heard horror stories from other people applying, and it's a really complicated process. And I think because it's so new as well, I mean, it was released, I think, in June or July, and I was just kind of waiting to see how things played out. I was reading in the Facebook groups to try and see what people's experience were. And then I figured, since I'm coming home anyways for the holidays, I figured it was enough time to apply. It wasn't, but yeah, I'm really thankful that it's done and over with. Highly recommend if you have the financial means to do it. I know not everyone is able to do that, but I think just knowing that regardless if you plan to stay in Thailand for a year at a time or you want to stay for the total 5 years, I think it just gives peace of mind of not having to do another visa application and having to submit details all over again. And also, what I've heard is for extensions, they actually require you to submit everything all over again, including updated bank statements. I don't have experience with that yet, but when that time comes, I'll definitely share what that experience is like. But I mean, if you don't want to do that, you can do a border run, go to another country for a few days and come back, or travel, whatever you prefer. But yeah, I think this is a really great opportunity, especially for remote workers and people working online, because I think I've been in Thailand 5 years, and we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the time when something like this would be available. There's the elite visa, there's retirement visas, there's a lot of other options, but I think specifically for remote workers and on people who work online, it just wasn't there. And so, yeah, I'm really happy with the outcome. Obviously, I just hope this video was helpful for anyone else that is applying for the DTV. I know it can be really stressful, but I promise you it's worth it. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I'll see you next time.